Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are feeling fantastic on a Friday here on the Snake Sports Talk Show live from Denver, Colorado, wherever and however you may be watching and listening. Thanks for making us part of your night. Lots of things going on. The NBA draft, and then we also have the NHL draft going on, free agency. There is so much to talk about here tonight, but we got it all here for you guys. So I have been super excited, and I'm really happy to be here with all of you guys, even up and on a Friday. I know it's been kind of a long week, but time changes. Different dates. It's going to be, like I said, the show will always be going on. So little bit of adjustments, but we're glad to be here with all of you guys here tonight. So with that being said, let's talk about what we witnessed from the NBA draft. And like everyone predicted, and it was obvious, Cooper Flagg, number 1 overall pick, to the Dallas Mavericks. It was no question. Neither was there any hesitation. So the Dallas Mavericks, Nico Harrison and company all take the number 1 best player out of college. So the Dallas Mavericks, like I told everybody, is by far, if this roster was healthy enough, is, to me, I think this is a Western Conference team. I really do. Take away the injuries. Think about this team being fully healthy all the way through. Now, the moves that they did make is that Kyrie Irving opted out of the last contract that he had and has now signed a new 3-year contract extension. And to me, you still got juice left in the tank with Kyrie Irving. And he is somebody that can help you to score, to provide spacing around the perimeter, and at least pass the ball around. And then at the same time, also can provide you some quality defense when you need it. But most of that is that Cooper Flagg, what he's coming up and into is he will have an offensive team built around. And at the same time, he will also contribute to defense, which was one of the things that Luka, as a hyper-aggressive offensive player, couldn't do on a good night. And so that's the one thing that Nico Harrison was trying to get through everyone's heads, was that. And not a lot of people believed in it. Not a lot of people thought that Nico Harrison was smart about it. So to me, I think with Cooper Flagg, give this puppy some time to cook. You come in, you got a very good coach in Jason Kidd, which why would you honestly want to leave the Dallas Mavericks? I mean, you've got New York poaching for coaches because you've got no backup plan after you fired Tibbs. What are you doing? And so the Dallas Mavericks, like I said, either they've dodged a bullet or they're proving a lot of people wrong. That this team will be better and they're going to prove it to you. So, and I'm not saying that the Luka trade was a great trade. I knew that this one was going to be hard for a lot of Dallas fans. They barely showed up to a lot of these games, and the ticket sales was not as great. Everybody felt exactly that backlash. But all I'm saying is that if you give this chance, with Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, and you got PJ Washington, and with Cooper Flagg in the middle of this mix, I think this team will be much better. They will be. And most people don't seem to believe that because in a caffeinated society, we are so quick to judge a lot of these books, like a lot of their covers, without even actually reading the book, without even actually like just really dissecting the team, what's going to work for them. So, and again, the Lakers, they won the long-term trade. They did, because Luka's young, and what from the looks of it is that he looks to be motivated. And I think a lot of that has to deal with LeBron James probably telling him, hey, bruh, you got to get up in better shape because we need you in a lot of these games, not only just from the offensive side, but I'm here to help you as well when it comes to the defensive side. So it's motivation at the end of the day. If it works, it works. And if it kind of still alludes to he's going to be hyper aggressive on offense, but they're going to need some defensive help, ultimately the Lakers are going to need defensive help, period. I mean, they're going to need a big, because when you looked at how that youngster up in its center looked like in the playoffs, he got annihilated. And that was the part, Hayes, he's going to develop, but they needed some defensive help. That was part of the repercussion that you were going to come into once you let go of Anthony Davis. And a lot of people still to this day still call him Mr. Glass, still call him injury prone. But when on a good night, when he's healthy, he's a very good defensive player. You cannot end up mistaking that. So I think that pick was obvious. And you could not end up passing up a talent like that. And so the Dallas Mavericks, let this puppy cook. And if this thing come by close to the end of the year, when this thing meshes and offensively, defensively, they're playing at their absolute best, you're going to see that. Now, I don't think Cooper Flagg is going to be the big stud and star right off the bat. That's going to be hard, especially because it's not like the NFL where you get a franchise quarterback like a Jaden Daniels who just takes you to the NFC Championship that quickly in the first year. It's just not that kind of simple fact with the NBA. It's not. And again, with physical play that we saw in the postseason, it's going to change up the whole thing of the way we view the NBA. But with that being said as well, I do want to factor in a few things up and in the NBA before we end up shifting up our talks here a little bit later on up and on the show. But I do want to point this out because in the draft, many people know that the NBA and the NFL draft are two completely different drafts. Because the NFL, I've got a 53-man roster, and when I end up adding a player, they are either going to be big-time contributors by day one, year one, or they're going to contribute in the 53-man roster for however that this thing cooks. And so I've already got talents that are ready to roll. Now, in the NBA, it's a little bit different. I think this NBA draft was decent enough when it came to the offensive side of things, and also you get some two-way players that can play both good offense and up and on defense, and some of them that are either very good three-point shooters or they're just pure scorers. Okay, and now a lot of people do get that misconstrued at times when it comes to shooting threes and when it comes to, I need a bucket in the perimeter. Everybody always mistakes that. But here's the thing that I will say is a couple draft picks that I really did like. Dylan Harper to San Antonio. I actually love the pick. Dylan Harper, to me, is exactly what San Antonio needed because De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle, and Victor Wembanyama. I mean, San Antonio for a long time has always been a defensive-minded team. They always have been. And with Greg Popovich and now moving on, and now you got his next in line that I don't know how he's going to look like, but I would assume he's going to be pretty successful if they're putting a lot of trust in him. But my big thing with San Antonio is all big about getting the defense right. And at the same time, keeping the possession up and on your side, get defensive rebounds. But the other thing that they needed to fix, because like most, like any team, either NFL or NHL, if you are very big up on defense, right? And everybody loves the saying, defense wins ball games. But you also still have to have an offense to score. You still got to put points up on the board because that's just going to be useless if you don't get somebody to end up putting up points up on the board. That's why I'm very critical of the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. But my thing with the San Antonio Spurs is that they had, when it came to Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, even Kawhi Leonard, they were a very hyper defensive team, but they also were good enough to give you buckets. And they were good enough to also give you some quality shots. So now adding in Dylan Harper is going to help you up and on the offensive side, because now with De'Aaron Fox being there in San Antonio, and you've also got Victor Wembanyama, who you know is going to be your bright future star for the next few years, gives you a lot of quality defensive size, but at least it gets the second chance shots. But you also know you got to have a rotation and at least have the scorers that you know can score in the perimeter and the shooters that can help you to hit the threes on the arc and in the wings. And I think Dylan Harper can do that. And Dylan Harper's going to end up learning a lot, especially in a defensive-minded organization like the Spurs. The other one that I thought was interesting, now, most people didn't quite, they understood the pick, and it was good. And that's Ace Bailey to Utah. To me, I see this pick with Ace Bailey, and watching at least his tapes, the kid's very good. The kid is very good. And what I see with this is that this was clearly Danny Ainge when I look at it at the time of Boston. Because if you think about this, with Jason Tatum and even with Jaylen Brown, okay, Boston knew that they were going to get youngsters that were going to come into a system, and they were eventually going to grow and build within their own selves. Now, Ace Bailey, most people, didn't quite like the response that he had, okay, when it came to the interviews. But he's a young kid, okay? Well, the thing about the NBA is because when we got a lot of 18-year-olds, and these kids, they're young-minded. I'm not going to bash them. Neither am I going to scrutinize a lot of these young kids for just being young. What I know is that when you're in a bigger stage like this and you are paid big time money to play in a sport where you know that you got television ratings, you got endorsement deals, shoe deals, and much, much more, especially with the CBA. You know that you are there to basically put on a show, and you're there to prove you are here to belong in this league. Okay? Ace Bailey, to me, feels a lot like that, because with Danny Ainge picking him and what they're trying to do up in Utah, I think Utah is going to have a bright future. And with him, Danny Ainge is honestly going to end up building Ace Bailey the same way that they built up Jason Tatum. Because now Ace Bailey may not have come from Duke, but we know that the kid can score. We know that the kid also has a pretty good defensive reputation. But we know the kid is young. Okay? So ultimately, Danny Ainge is going to work him the same way that he worked Jason Tatum. Okay? And that's what made Jason Tatum all the more reasons where he was going to be a bright future for Boston. I mean, when they got rid of Kyrie Irving, and then here comes, when Kyrie Irving got hurt and so did Gordon Hayward, here comes Jason Tatum taking the spotlight and getting him into the Eastern Conference Final. It was humongous. They put a lot of faith and trust in those two. So I feel like with Ace Bailey, it is a rebuilding roster for the Jazz, but knowing Danny Ainge, he's smart. He's not going to have this team down in the dumps for very long. Okay, I know with moving on from Joe Ingles and Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, this team will be much better. You got to give it some time. Give it some time to build. But I think those two with Dylan Harper and with Ace Bailey, I think those two were very good picks I liked. And there was one team that literally took 4 guards in their first 4 picks, and I'm just like, good Lord. How could they be taking so many of these guards? Do they not trust any of them that they have? Or is there not a bunch of offense that they know that they're going to need? It was just really weird to me. But I just think with quality players, Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, there are some quality players that were up and in this draft. It may not have been high-quality players like what we always see in the NFL. But we know with the NIL, we also know with the transfer portal in college, is going to allow these kids to stay up in college, build, get better, and prepare for what the NBA has in store for them. Because a lot of these youngsters, the idea and the mentality of like they're trying to find the next Kobe, LeBron, that doesn't exist anymore. It really doesn't exist. That is a once in a lifetime type of thing. Okay, it's just not going to happen. But what you can do is that you can build the next big potential star. That's it. And we know that everybody all harps about face of the league. We just got to put that face of the league stuff in the back burner. We just got to do that for a second, because I'm not thinking of face of the league right now. I am trying to figure out what am I getting, especially when it comes to these future studs. That's all I'm getting. So hopefully we'll figure that out. But in the meantime, I like those two picks. I think San Antonio's got a very bright future with Dylan Harper. And I also do think that because Danny Ainge picking Ace Bailey is going to be the similar build the same way with Jason Tatum in Boston. Good stuff. But like I said, these drafts are completely different than what the NFL does. So, seeing this and watching bits and pieces of the draft last night only told you exactly the direction that some of these organizations are going. It just told you exactly where their hands are, what exactly they are trying to prepare for. And it was clearly obvious. But I will say that that draft in particular, I think it's not something that I don't think it was a horrible draft. I think it was fun. I also do think you're going to get some quality offensive players, and it's only going to take a little bit of time. So let it cook. Good stuff. We got a bunch of things to really literally unwrap. NHL draft, NHL free agency. We're going to be talking a little bit more about that down here on the stretch of the show. But coming up next, Aaron Rodgers, which we know it's going to be an interesting season with the Pittsburgh Steelers. However, we've got some news up on here that was the news that everybody was waiting for on the future of Aaron Rodgers in this league. And that's going to be coming up next here on the show. Alrighty, folks. Well, I do have exciting news for everybody here, but the Snake Sports Talk Show has officially partnered with Bucked Up. Now, for many people like myself who are trying to shoot for our summer body goals, also changing your healthy lifestyle, changing your diet, trying to get the best version of you, Bucked Up is the play. And it is also product and company that provide high quality, 100% natural proven ingredients to get you in the best shape of your life. Pre-workouts, BCAAs, whey style protein, and also some supplements to help you with your everyday goals, no matter what they are. I mean, I'm trying to be up and on the best shape of my life. Go to the gym at least 4, close to 5 times a week. And I need that upper picture to really keep me energized. I also need that perfect body recovery. And Bucked Up has everything that you need. Whether coming from pre-workouts, whey protein, recovery, and BCAA, Bucked Up has it up there for you guys. Check out Bucked Up for yourself here. Link in the description as well. Check out, shop, and also use the promo code SNAKESPORTS1 for your exclusive discount at checkout for all of your products. Whatever that you decide, whatever that you need to help strive and achieve for maybe your summer goals or maybe just your everyday healthy goals, whatever it may be. Check out the link in the description at buckedup.com in the description with promo code SNAKESPORTS1 for your exclusive discount.
Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts that get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
Looking for a show with the best takes and opinions? Want a show with the best coverage around the world of sports? Jam-packed with an all-star interview lineup? Then the best place to find it all, sports and entertainment, is right here. Join Jake Silva on the Snake Sports Talk Show, presented by SeatGeek and BetUS. Weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
So, some interesting stuff happening up and in Pittsburgh, and we finally have an idea what's happening with Aaron Rodgers and what the up-and-coming season is going to look like for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, the Steelers, as we know, getting Aaron Rodgers a contract, hoping that he will be that quarterback that will help them to get them up and over the hump and for their first playoff win in a long time. We know in the last few years that the Steelers have had issues when it came to their offense. Defensively, they're a very good team. But we know that having Aaron Rodgers here may end up providing to where you're going to have an offense that's going to help them to get up over the hump. And at the same time, we know Aaron Rodgers, as a quality quarterback, is not going to make mistakes. He's not going to make a ton of mistakes. Now, lots of people ended up seeing with where Aaron Rodgers has been at in the last few years. But with that being said, Aaron Rodgers ended up coming out and announcing that this season will officially be his final one. And look, I love Aaron Rodgers. I do. I still respect him for a lot of the memories that he's given us in the league. From all of his days in Green Bay, even when he's having to deal with, Brett Favre. But it's funny because even Colin Cowherd pointed out something that I thought was really interesting is that the fact that Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre are a mirroring image of each other, because they both drafted by Green Bay, except for Brett Favre going to the Falcons and then gets traded and then goes and wins the Super Bowl with the Packers. But the thing is, they're Green Bay faithfuls. Both of them are. You go around, people are going to talk about Brett. People are going to talk about Aaron Rodgers. Only difference of it is that Aaron is much more cleaned and refined as a quarterback for a NorCal kid than it is of Brett Favre as a Southern kid, gunslinger, old school type of football. And everybody loved that. Everybody loved a heroic story. But both of them, both left Green Bay. and go to play with the Jets. And look, it just happens. And the thing is that we know the Jets, their organization is so wonky with the Johnsons. You're never ever going to know what you're going to get in a bag of marbles. Okay, it's unpredictable with the Jets. But I love with what they're building up as of right now with Aaron Glenn. They got a very good offensive front. They've got a very good defensive unit. And they've even got some players that I really do like up on offense as their weaponry. But quarterback has been the problem. And then at the same time, consistency. So Brett Favre, when I remembered him going to the Jets, like Jet fans were hoping this could help them get up over the hump. Well, that didn't work because only by that year, Brett Favre then goes to Minnesota. And the Vikings had arguably a really good season under Brett Favre, was only so close to getting into the Super Bowl. Now, Brett, of course, retires, and we all know the rest of the story, and I watched the documentary as well. I'm not going to get into a lot of the personal stuff with Brett Favre, but we know as the player, he was a hero. He was a Green Bay hometown faithful type of player. I mean, that's always what he's been. Once Aaron Rodgers got drafted out of Cal, and as a NorCal kid, we thought that the 49ers would have loved to have had Aaron Rodgers, but we know that he still had a grudge because of it, because they decided to take the Utah kid, Alex Smith, in that draft. Now, Aaron had to put up with a lot of the stuff that Brett Favre, we know he was going through himself, and knowing that a change was going to happen. Once Aaron Rodgers was a full-time starter, it was kind of off and on from here, but that's what you would expect for a quarterback going into a system. And even with Mike McCarthy, like, it was different. Now, Aaron, of course, going into the progressions, got the Packers to a Super Bowl, beat the Steelers in that Super Bowl. They had a very good underrated defense. They had a very good offensive unit, especially with Donald Driver, Greg Jennings, and multiple others. Okay, we can understand that. The run game was just meh with Ryan Grant. Like, we know it wasn't all that big. And then, of course, you go from James Starks and a couple other ones until you get, an Aaron Jones. But to me, Aaron Rodgers, clean, refined, doesn't throw a ton of picks. Because Aaron, even when you looked at the MVP seasons, he's thrown for so many touchdown passes. He's thrown for more than 4,000 passing yards. And we know that he's thrown for less than 10 picks at best. But we also know that his completion percentage had gotten higher and higher and higher. Well, Aaron, as we know, once Jordan Love came up and into the mix, the same thing that would happen with Brett Favre is the same thing that was happening with Aaron Rodgers. You get a young kid in, you think he's going to replace Aaron Rodgers right away, and we all knew Aaron was getting up in age. We knew that there was a couple years where he didn't end up playing the same. I mean, we watched the game against Chicago. We watched again the games, all around the NFC North and all around the NFC. It was different with the Packers. Now, we know that after Jordan Love got drafted, there were two MVP seasons that Aaron Rodgers put up. But unfortunately, one, he came up short in the NFC Championship against Tampa and Tom Brady. Okay, that was a great matchup by both of them, but they came up short. Now, the other year, he had another MVP season and then lost to San Francisco in a very close game. They couldn't even put any points up. So we know Green Bay was kind of coming to the end with Aaron Rodgers. So then Aaron now introduces us into his lifestyle. Okay, he goes up, takes ayahuasca, psychedelic, and then goes on a darkness retreat, goes in, he's finding his aura. I've watched Enigma, okay? I've watched the documentary too. Aaron's just an interesting guy. But I think he's okay with that. He's comfortable with being that interesting guy. Means no harm. But we also know Aaron is passive aggressive because he wants things a certain way, wants it his way. It's just the same thing that after Donald Driver and after Greg Jennings and after Jordy Nelson, after Randall Cobb, once you had Devontae Adams, a young kid from Fresno State, this was kind of the thing he had to go through too. If you weren't going to run the routes that Aaron had, he was never going to throw to you. Okay, that's just because if you're not following exactly what he has in store, and Aaron, if you watch Enigma, he is by far smart to a whole level I've never even been introduced to. Okay, I never thought about that side, and he's really smart at it. So if you didn't fit the bill, you were never going to get any of those pass attempts. So by that point, Aaron, in that last year in Green Bay, Detroit knocks them out of their opportunity of getting up and into the playoffs. And we knew Detroit was wanting to get the last laugh at the end of the season, and they did. Now Aaron takes time off, and then he ends up going to the same place Brett Favre went to, the Jets. First year, not even 5 minutes into the game, tears his Achilles. And that was heartbreaking. But the thing is, Robert Saleh was a very good defensive-minded coach. And if you look at how the Jets were, I mean, it was a college sideline. It looked like a lot like a college team because young players, offensive line, offensive weapons, run game, Breece Hall, like all those guys. And then even the defensive unit, even with Sauce Gardner, it was looking really, really good. And people actually thought the Jets could be interesting as long as they could just get the quarterback right. But we all know 65% of the league whiff on quarterbacks. It just happens. But once Aaron came back fully healthy and the Jets got a new look, Aaron had a decent season. He had a decent season. It wasn't terrible. Yeah, he may have thrown for a few more picks than what we're all used to, but he had a decent season. The Jets, unfortunately, they just couldn't win the games that they should have. And we all know that the locker room, the coaching staff, and the GM, Robert Saleh gets fired, Joe Douglas gets fired, and everything just goes south. And of course, Aaron trying to manipulate the idea that he has the answers. It's different here, bruh. Okay? It's a different time. So now he goes to Pittsburgh on 1 year, and I think Pittsburgh was really the only destination. It made sense. Mike Tomlin, defensive coach, they are needing a quarterback because they've got an offense that they really are trying to fix and put the pieces together. They get DK Metcalf, you got Calvin Austin, and you got Roman Wilson. It will be interesting to see how the offense really pans out. You got no Najee Harris, you got Caleb Johnson, and then you got Jaylen Warren. So how will the run game really work? How would the offensive line really protect for Aaron? And once again, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they spend more of their money on defense. And they have yet to give TJ Watt a contract, and I guarantee you they are going to give it to him. They will. But everybody knows that the Pittsburgh Steelers, this is basically Tomlin's job on the line. And I don't think Tomlin, in a sense, would get fired, but I'm sure he would probably, step away. Probably more on his own. I just think that with Mike Tomlin, I've said this before, is that I do think he's a very good motivational coach as a culture. But he's not as innovative as an offensive mind. Offensive scheme plans, all of that. That's where he was hoping to fix that, even with getting with Arthur Smith. And who knows what this offense will look like. But that's one of the things that Aaron Rodgers is so critical of. But because Aaron saying that this is finally going to be the year that he's going to hang it up. Look, whatever happens in this Pittsburgh year, and even with what happened in the Jets year, it's not going to tarnish this legacy that Aaron's put together because his entire years have been in Green Bay. Okay, so it's not like it's going to tarnish anything. What it is that Aaron is going to try to get Pittsburgh back in the playoffs again, hopefully win a playoff series, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But I've told people, I think this is going to honestly be from the look of the strength of schedule and what they've put together on the roster, and then adding Aaron Rodgers to the middle of this mix, this looks more like a 10-7, 9-8 season. I'm just going to be bluntly honest with you, because every single year with Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh fans could vouch for this, they have been in middle of the pack purgatory in the NFL draft for the last few years because all they care about is just a winning season over 500. You got to change the culture. You got to change the mentality, man. And so who knows? But at least with Aaron we know is an interesting guy. But I just feel like I've said many years, is he just is not mentally focused up on football. He may be at the moment, but not entirely where he's invested fully with a team. I mean, you saw that in the last year at Green Bay. You saw that in the 2 years with the Jets. And you're probably going to see this too with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But that's why Aaron, I'm actually happy he came to that decision, because it's not like Aaron has to prove to us anything. Aaron's already won a Super Bowl, like Favre. He's already won MVPs, kind of like Favre, even better, more refined, much better as a quarterback, not a gunslinger. And Aaron has shown us a side that, not a lot of people have dug into. I mean, I've been around naturalists, seriously. Like, I've been around it. I mean, my wife has too. They've been around naturalists. But it is an interesting realm. So I'm not going to get fully up and into it, because there are a lot of, conspiracy stuff. There are a lot of also, too, some natural things that most people have never dug into, especially when it comes to medicals, healths, all that stuff. And I'm sure it's good. I really do. I mean, I've tapped into a little bit of it just for my own natural health purposes, but I haven't dug in deep because there's some of those things that I'm still optimistic about. So, but listen, I'm happy for Aaron to have that, to come to that conclusion and give us clarity, because it's not like he has to prove to us anything else. He's been a superstar quarterback. He has been the hero of Green Bay, much like Favre, but totally different scale. Who knows what Green Bay's future will be like? Whether it still be with Jordan Love, maybe it will be with a different quarterback. But Aaron's legacy will remain in Green Bay. Everybody knows that. But it was a very fun ride when it's lasted. So we'll see what the season looks like. Let's get to the news.
This is the Hot Press.
Lots of things cooking up in the hot press, of course. And so to start off with this, the NHL free agency has been on fire. And of course, tonight we've got the NHL draft, the first round of it. But we are getting into a lot of the news that was happening in the NHL free agency. So, the Florida Panthers winning the Stanley Cup final, back-to-back champions, and the back-to-back champs have indeed locked in their playoff MVP, the Conn Smythe Trophy winner, Sam Bennett, to an 8-year contract extension. He ain't going nowhere. So Bennett's new contract has a salary cap of at least $8 million annually, up from $4.425 million on his previous contract, but below what Bennett was expected to be offered from other teams as a free agent. So the Panthers are one of several NHL teams that play in a state with no income tax, which has become a hot button issue in the league, as teams such as Florida, Tampa, and Vegas have all won Stanley Cups recently. So Sam Bennett, he's found his niche with the Florida Panthers since he's been there. 29-year-old, scoring 25 goals, 26 assists in 76 games during the regular season. Leveled up his playoff game where he had 11 goals and 12 assists with 23 points in 21 games that gave him the Conn Smythe MVP of the Stanley Cup final. So lots of people have been curious about that. Because with the no state tax income, that is crucial for some teams. But, however, again, it was much like what, Barry Bendon mentioned about the state of Florida. There is no income tax. There's no state tax. And the thing about it is because a lot of these players, and what's different about NHL than any other sport with high amounts of money, and by the way, the NHL also agreed to a 4-year deal with the CBA. So the contracts are going to start to get much, much bigger. And I just think it is it's just a different timeline that we live in now. But the NHL, the contracts are going to start to get bigger. And there's going to be, the long-term length is obviously 8 years. But lots of people are concerned about, the teams that have no state tax and whatnot. My big thing about this is that if you're going to a team that has no state tax, then my big thing is that, to me, a lot of those teams, they want the guarantees. I look at this even in the NFL. You look at Tampa, the Bucks, the Raiders, multiple teams. Vegas has no state tax. So that's why a lot of those guaranteed monies are in fact up front. Because isn't that what attracts a lot of players to want to go? So to me, I think Sam Bennett, he filled in a very good spot with the Florida Panthers. And with the Panthers, they obviously want to continue to get back into the Stanley Cup playoffs, and they want to continue to get into the finals. But we know that a lot of these teams, even the other teams that deal with state tax, there are a lot of things that go into a lot of those contract negotiations. And so if you're going up and into a state with no state tax, that's going to be a really good plus side, or at least for the player. Because it's all about the guarantees. So still staying up and on the NHL with the contract situations as well. So the Edmonton Oilers, we got another one that was a big-time long-term contract. Now, the Oilers, they were busy. They ended up trading away Evander Kane to the Vancouver Canucks, and they got at least a couple picks. But the Oilers have locked into their free agent that they also got from the trade, Trent Frederic, to an 8-year, $30.8 million extension. So Frederic's not going anywhere. And honestly, I think Trent Frederic has also found his niche with the Edmonton Oilers. And so the 27-year-old, he returned from an ankle sprain and played one game with Edmonton this season prior to the playoffs, where he recorded 15 points, 8 goals, and 7 assists with a minus 14 rating and 57 contests with Boston in the 24-25 season. Now, Frederic posted a career-high total in goals in 18, 22 in assists, and 40 points while playing in 82 games in 23-24. So, the former Boston Bruin, now we know that Boston was going through an entire rebuild, but Trent Frederic, the 27-year-old, he's found his home in Edmonton for 8 years, and they had to fill in a hole because I don't think they're going to end up having Corey Perry back, but we know that getting rid of Evander Kane, it was expensive. They needed to get some draft picks in the middle of it, but the Oilers are trying to keep their offensive core because same like the Florida Panthers, they want to continuously get back into the playoffs. So I think Trent Frederic, he's a very good player. Now, if it wasn't for the injury, he probably would have ended up accumulating much more than what he got through the past season, but I do think that they're trying to keep their offensive core. It was clear, and it made sense. Couple more news. The Toronto Maple Leafs know that they were coming into a situation where they really had to make a decision amongst their core four. Now, one of those core four ended up getting an extension. John Tavares comes in with a 4-year extension with the Leafs, and it was quoted was the best fit. John Tavares did not want to end up leaving Toronto. And the Toronto Maple Leafs ended up rewarding him with a 4-year contract extension carrying an annual value of $4.38 billion as he was set to become an unrestricted free agent on July 1st, but opted out of exploring his options by taking less to stick with the Leafs. Tavares ended up saying this here on a media conference call on Friday, that obviously left some money out there, but I've done pretty well. I'm still doing pretty well. And I get to play for an amazing club in a great city, the place where I'm from, and for a team that's got a real opportunity to win. It's a real strong hockey team, and there's a tremendous amount of belief. So the center is coming off of one of his most productive regular seasons, collecting 38 goals, 74 points in 75 games. And it was the second time in 3 years that Tavares had eclipsed the 30-goal mark while carrying over 18 minutes total ice time per game, and contributing to the top power play unit. So John Tavares, to me, it makes sense for the Toronto Maple Leafs because at least I know that John Tavares does contribute. He contributes in a way even through the regular season. But we all know, I think what this now just tells you is that Mitch Marner's off the board. Mitch Marner is clearly out of Toronto. But to me, like I said, teams that are going to honestly end up affording the contract, and we also know, too, that, I mean, the buzz right now is that Vegas seems to be the frontliners for getting Mitch Marner. I'm not sure how that might end up working out, only because of just the chemistry of the team with Mark Stone, Jack Eichel, and several others. It's a very strong club in Vegas. But if you're going there, if you're Mitch Marner, we know that stuff in the playoffs, when folding in the most important games of a series, that's got to stay in. That's just got to stay in Toronto. And I think everybody knows that. But at least with John Tavares and company, I mean, you're going to obviously build this around Austin Matthews. I don't think William Nylander is going to end up going nowhere. He's still up and under contract, but at least with John Tavares, it works. And he's taking less. And that just tells you, especially from a former captain and a leader, that it's not about the money. It's trying to make this team a lot better. Now, we've heard that so many times, right? That most players, they're like, we're not playing for the money. Final story, and especially coming out here in Denver, Colorado, and this was an interesting one. So the Colorado Avalanche, they are also getting busy themselves. Now, recently they extended Brock Nelson. They ended up giving him a contract extension. However, this was an interesting one, and I'm not sure how their offense is going to look like the up-and-coming season, and especially two up on defense. But the Colorado Avalanche have traded forwards Charlie Coyle and Miles Wood to the Columbus Blue Jackets up on Friday, freeing up some salary cap space hours before the draft. So the Jackets then send forward Gavin Brindley, the 77th overall pick in this year's draft, and a conditional 27 second-round pick to the Avs. So Charlie Coyle, to me, I think has been a very good middle-of-the-pack blue liner for several teams, even for the Boston Bruins at one point. So they traded him in a package that sent Casey Middlestat in the 61st pick to the Bruins. And Charlie Coyle had 2 goals and 11 assists in the 19 regular season games, and then 1 goal in 7 games in the Colorado's first-round loss to the Dallas Stars. So losing Charlie Coyle, yeah, that does hurt, especially when it comes to you're needing a much-needed productive forward. But is this smelling like that the Avs might actually have something in their back pocket? It might be the case, but the Columbus Blue Jackets, they are the ones that have the most cap space. So they've been making some moves to try to contribute to at least help out a lot of their really good young pieces. The other thing is that even with their goaltending situation, they've gotten better on defense. I also do think that because they were so close last year, they were very, very close to getting in. But we know that there were some games that kind of hurt them up into the end. But at least with Columbus, with the cap space that they have, they're spending the money. And they're getting at least some good players that even regardless of the draft picks, it's the same thing with the NBA. It's like you're getting draft assets, but they're contributing towards a certain player's contract, and at least by their potential. So that's why I'm like, I think with Columbus getting at least the 2 forwards that they got, I think it's pretty good. And I mean, Miles Wood, he's also a very good player. Getting him from New Jersey, trying to help out any way that they could last year with the Colorado Avalanche. But I do think with the Avs getting a forward and some picks really will help them, and especially freeing up the cap space situation so they could maybe potentially dip into the free agent market and seeing if they can get somebody that could be a supplemental help either on offense or even up on defense. But to me personally, it's like they got to end up fixing up at least their goaltending situation. I do think that they do need a much-needed defensive player because that's part of it that really hurt them last year. Defenses was crumbling and goaltending was off and on. So we'll see what happens here with the Avs. All right, that's going to do it here for the news.
This is the Hot Press.
All right, we're going to take a break, but coming up, it actually is going to be. I just think in the next few years, with at least the state of the NBA, and after with what we just seen, but it's going to be an interesting state, and most of that is going to be more pertaining to NIL, collegiate athletes, and how this is really going to shape up for the NBA. But I have a few things to really say about that. Going to take a break here coming up.
Looking for a show with the best takes and opinions? Want a show with the best coverage around the world of sports? Jam-packed with an all-star interview lineup? Then the best place to find it all, sports and entertainment, is right here. Join Jake Silva on the Snake Sports Talk Show, presented by SeatGeek and BetUS. Weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts that get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket, and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
Listen up, sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
All right. Good to have you all in here, folks. Appreciate you for hanging with me and stopping on by. Next week, Chase will be back up and in the building, guys. We've also got some very good interviews coming up. Going to be talking a little bit more of hockey, and then at the same time, also we've been tapping in a lot of college stuff. So going to have a really good set lineup here for you guys next week, so stay tuned for that. I do want to say this for at least the last 5 minutes here up and on the show is what we witnessed in the NBA this past season is that we noticed that it was a drastic change. Everybody all knows it. Now, of course, the Oklahoma City Thunder win the NBA title, first title in OKC history. Obviously, them branching from the Seattle Supersonics and then relocating to Oklahoma City. Everybody's thinking about, the history behind that. But there is talks about potentially, if expansions were to happen, do we revive, the Seattle Supersonics? So aside from this, the platform of the NBA is truthfully changing. Now, I know a lot of people, it's hard for them to really take it into existence because we're so used to, the last few years, like in the later days, we were so used to like 80s, 90s basketball where it was a lot of physicality. I recently had watched the documentary that explained about, Tim Donaghy. And I thought I've been watching listen, I'm just going to say this for the record. Untold has had such great documentaries. I watched a lot of them recently. And I thought it was just crazy because even when we're getting into a world and in a universe, especially with, sports betting and gambling, it really has changed the way that we look at sports today. It never used to be like that because sure, you will have like wagers and such. But even watching that documentary in itself, I mean, you watch Tim Donaghy, you watch Scott Foster. I mean, everybody all knows that like these guys that have been, refereeing for so long. We know that like the whole Donaghy situation was just unique. I'm just going to say that. Everybody knows, Scott Foster for long years, 30 years. Everybody all kind of knows what you're going to get into, whether you're going to get accurate official calling or you're probably going to end up getting the most controversial calls. But besides that, the NBA, what we've known for so long, has changed. And it's changed very drastically because Adam Silver, as we know, is trying to build a parity league. Okay, he's trying to add parity in this league. College hoops, which I love watching every year in March, okay, because that's my birthday month. And it usually starts up exactly on the day of my birthday. And the tournament is fantastic. Well, we noticed that like the change of this is because with the NIL deals, because of the transfer portal, you're going to see a lot of these college athletes come back to staying with their colleges. And that's actually a good thing because you are trying to build the next best thing for the NBA. I mean, John Calipari, when we know up in Kentucky, okay, with this one and done thing, 18-year-olds, young-minded athletes, okay, they're going to do young-minded things. Because when you give them millions of dollars, what do you think is going to happen? I mean, they're not mentally matured enough to understand what a 401k or a financial trustee, like a retirement plan and all those things are going to be because they're young. What do you think a lot of them are going to do? They're probably going to end up getting their souped up sports car. They're probably going to end up getting, buying. A lot of them, I mean, they pay off mortgages for some of the houses, and even for some of them, they buy up a bigger house, whether for themselves or for their families. So they're young-minded kids. I'm not going to honestly rip them for that. I won't, because we know with young players, because young players look at a lot of the older generations, and they just want us to put their arms around them and guide them, mentor them, show them exactly the ropes. But the thing about it is that we know that there's new money floating everywhere. It's getting printed off every single day. But the thing about the NBA is that because of these NIL deals, it's going to help with college athletes stay at least for a max of 3 years. And you know what? I'm okay with that. At least the players will be mentally matured enough that when they come into an environment like the NBA, which is very cultural, it's also one that it's stylistic. And I mean, music's involved. I mean, you watch The Shop. I mean, that's what it's all about. And so it's a culture. Now, the NBA, we know, and what Adam Silver's been trying to prevent is he's been trying to prevent super teams, which they probably are no longer existing anymore, because it's giving a lot of these small markets, like what we just watched with OKC in Indiana. I guarantee you that if you looked at a lot of the ratings were probably not that great. But the problem of it is because if it's not the Lakers or the Celtics or the Heat or any of these other teams, not a ton of people are going to watch. Even with Golden State, like, people know that there's money in Silicon Valley, but not a ton of people are going to watch a lot of the small market teams. It just happens because they're big on the bigger brands. They're big on the brands that we know that are going to pay the most. I mean, you just watch the Lakers and the Buss family sell the team to the owner of the Dodgers. Why? Dodgers are a big brand. And Mark Walter, he's got one international star that's bringing in international money in Shohei Ohtani. And now he's got another one with Luka Doncic. You don't think that the revival of the Lakers is going to come back again? It will. And why is that? Because look who's in his back pocket. Magic Johnson. And you all know exactly with how Magic is. Okay, he's going to provide out, and he's going to end up getting the money. So people are going to see this with the Lakers, and you're going to see that big brand. I mean, it's like, imagine hypothetically what would happen with Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. Big market brand, billions of dollars in Texas where it's rich in oil. Like, an interesting conversation. We all know that if there's going to be new money involved, you better hope that you've got a star. You better hope that you've got a big-time star that's going to help you to accumulate that. And everybody knows it's like, this is not fair. Small market teams deserve a chance. Listen, I have a soft spot for small market teams myself because I love a story. But let's be honest, in businesses, if you're not in these big corporate businesses, nobody cares. You're going to be the small business shop. It's just reality of life. Okay. And I always love small businesses. I do. Because they are the most down-to-earth people. They also know that like they have a sense of pride in them. They take pride in their business. And at the same time, they want their businesses to grow. As long as it grows in the right direction. Because we know corporate America will just swallow you alive. They will. It just happens. But I think about this because the NBA, the quality of the product is only going to get better in the next 2-3 years. As long as the NIL is helping for collegiate athletes to return back to college, build up their potential, build up their mental maturity. And at the same time, it's just like, to me, it just makes the product better. The NFL their product gets better every single season. International, college football, all of these athletes right off the bat. They're ready to play. NBA, I barely even know about these kids until they're the 3rd, 4th year in the league. And a lot of them, too, because of international stars now. Because remember, we're coming from a timeline where we've dealt with Tony Kukoc. Now we've elevated to where we got Luka and Giannis and Wemby and Jokic. We got a lot of international stars, and they're starting to take over. So that, that in itself is a change, and it's a cultural change in the NBA. That's why this whole face of the league thing, I can't focus on it because we all know that we're coming to this point where it's a shift, it's a change. So I know that like when people look at sports, NFL's king. It's US. Like we're dominating in it. NBA is cultural, somewhat is ours. And international players, they've gotten better. They have a better maturity rate than especially with some of our domestic stars. But that's why I'm a little harder on our domestic stars because us as the US, there's expectations up and involved. I mean, go watch soccer. I mean, have you watched the men's national team? I mean, with Christian Pulisic, like, and you watch the coaches, and then you watch exactly just the structure of our entire roster. There's expectation involved because us as US, like every country, right? We want to make our country proud. We want to stand for our country. And this is no politics involved, by the way, but we know from life in itself, since it's existed, okay, we've gone through wars, we've gone through different political changes, we have gone through dictatorships, and we've gone through a lot of those other things, and they are pivotal to the way that our cultures are shaped up. So, to me, it's just like, I'm always optimistic and I'm always open to new products. I really am. As long as the product is consistent, the product works, and the product thrives. Because why not? The NBA, we know, this is what the NBA has to do. The NBA really has to get the relationship meshed together between them and college hoops. Because you got this NIL money, you got to be okay with these college players coming back to college for at least 2-3 years, okay? And you're going to get better products. You're going to get products that are going to be ready to play, especially when you got these small market teams like Indiana, like OKC, Charlotte, Washington. You got all these small market teams. Hell, Orlando's already making more, like they're making moves. Getting Desmond Bane, and then they get another shooter. Man, Orlando's finally doing it. And it's exciting because they're looking at Indiana and what they did, and they're like, why can't we? So ultimately, with the parity up and in the league, you can't please everybody. But we know there's respect for the bigger market brands. Boston, Los Angeles, Dallas, Miami. There's respect for all of them. But we know with small market teams, and what I love about them is that they put teams first. And they're trying to structure their roster. It's hard to do that when a lot of those stars are all trying to go into these bigger money markets. Because why? They're winning championships. Their names are getting out there. That's usually how it is. And they're getting bigger. So the thing about the NBA is shorten up the damn season, please. Because I just don't see this. Like you're literally feeling like baseball, where it's 162 games a year. Okay. And so that's a long season. And even to me with baseball, I would love to shred 62 games and just go to 100. 50 games, all-star break, 50 games, postseason. Because when do people tune on the TV for baseball? October. Should be obvious. Now with the NBA, look at how long that this season has carried on. Way too long. You didn't even have like a start. And to me, Christmas is always the best time. Just think about it. Look at the Christmas ratings compared to like Halloween and Thanksgiving. Because to me, Christmas is like the perfect time of year. Okay? And you shorten the season up enough to where it keeps a lot of your players healthy. Now, can y'all fix this playoff format, please? Because I don't need all of these games to go 7 in every round. Seriously, the only time that you want the games to go 7 is the championships and the finals. That is it. First, second rounds should be short. Because to me, everybody is all like heartbroken because of Tyrese Halliburton's injury. And I get it. Because think about it. If those first 2 rounds were shortened up by at least like a best of 5, okay? Or even if you get the first round like a best of 3. Because I mean, the one thing is that we got the play-in tournament, okay? It's a one and done deal. You got the play-in tournament, you go up and into the playoffs. Even if you get the first round as a best of 3, you're winning at least the 2 games because it's trying to prove to you, do you belong in the playoffs or not? And it's giving everybody a chance. The play-in tournament, it's like you're trying to make everybody happy, and you can't make everybody happy. Okay? And so you go in, you're trying to decide the teams that deserve to be in the playoffs, and then the teams that obviously are shortened up that they're not there yet. And then the second round, you get the best of 5. By the time you get into the championships and the finals, it's best of 7. It's perfect. And then it guarantees a lot of players' health. So that's the big part. Now, Now, the thing is that with Tyrese Halliburton's injury, and again, I don't think it's an excuse because look what happened with Jason Tatum. That's why the Boston Celtics made the moves that they did during this offseason because they're going to be sidelined with Jason Tatum right now. And that injury was crucial. It was horrible. So Boston knows that they hit a crack. So they're trying to fill it. So to me, shorten up the playoff format, shorten up the season, and then at the same time, what the hell are you going to do with the All-Star game? Because right now, it's meaningless. Because you're not playing any defense. You're just running up the scores to get up to 300, and for what? More records broken? Meaningless. I hate it. I don't care. The other thing is, like, the only thing I care about is, like, do what baseball does. I mean, the home run derby festivity. I mean, you got the three-pointer. You got the skills challenges. You got all that stuff. I'm okay with that. But if the All-Star game is meaningless, then what the hell? You know, I don't even think like an All-Star game should honestly go that long. I mean, think about how the All-Star game happened with hockey. They had a 3-on-3, and it was shortened minutes, and nobody tuned into it. And then what happened? Gary Bettman came up with the greatest idea possible. Let's do the Four Nations tournament. U.S., Canada, and 2 other countries. 4 nations clashing together. Boy, was that a success. That got more rating views than the NBA All-Star game. It's because people like the physical game. And people like, come on. Listen, I know most people don't watch hockey at all, but don't you love a little bit of like a fist fight where it's energetic? I mean, the minute that Canada's booing U.S. and all this other stuff and trying to get the best of them, what did the U.S. do? They threw their gloves down and they put their fists up and they were ready to fight. Everybody loved that. That was the first initial start of the Four Nations tournament. And then we got the Olympics. So there's always new creative and innovative things to do. You just got to tap into that realm. I mean, Major League Baseball is doing the best thing when it came to the Ghost Runner, the robotic strike zone, the timers. It's shortening the games up to at least 2 hours, maybe even 2.5. Because especially if you're going to watch a game, all right, on a Wednesday, 2 hours, perfect. I'm back home. I'm back up in bed. Okay, or I'm putting the kids to sleep. I'm at least at a reasonable time. I can't do 3+ hours because then I'm like close to midnight. So that's crucial. They're already making the change. I think the ridiculous thought was trying to put the golden at bat rule. What the hell was that about? I didn't understand that. I don't even know why. I think they just kind of got antsy and they got cute with it. I don't think you need it. Everything else is fine. But like I said, the NBA's just got to get into this point. Because here's the crazy part. 2 days ago, we had the draft, okay? First round, second round, and then what is it today? The NHL draft. You are literally clashing in with the NHL. That's why I'm like, figure out a timeline. I think Christmas is perfect because majority of your ratings are up, and in Christmas, you shorten the season up, you fix up the playoff format so that by the time the NBA's wrapped up, then that means we can finally go into the offseason. And then you'll have the draft. We'll focus up on basketball. Nobody's going to be tuning into Major League Baseball because it's such a long season. But at least you have the consistency there. You are trying to find your niche when it comes to your ratings. NFL has done this for the last few years. That's why they're so great at it. Okay, they've already done that. I mean, the schedule release, the draft, the playoffs, the regular season schedules, like they've already done that. Even with the international stuff. That's why the NFL's king. They've done this. So I'm just saying that's my last rant with everything. So, all right, I got to get done with this. Appreciate everybody for coming on by and listening to me rant about the NBA. Anyway, it's a great week. Next week, we got some interviews. Going to be talking some more about the NHL, wrapping up the NHL draft. We got a fellow Reds representative for the LA Kings. It's going to be up and on the show. And also a representative for the Wisconsin Badgers. We're talking college football, talking college basketball, all sorts of stuff. So tune in next week. And, of course, our co-host Chase will be back next week as well, guys. So you don't want to miss it. Appreciate all of you guys for continuing to show your supports for the show here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Check it out at snakesportstalkshow.com as well for all of our latest episodes, all of our latest vlogs, and so much more to keep you tuned in on the show. Take care, everyone. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you guys next week here on the show.